My name's Orion, and I'm afraid. Afraid of what you want.
Oscar-winning screenwriter Charlie Kaufman tries his hand at animation once more in the fantasy adventure Orion and the Dark, based on the children's book of the same name and directed by Sean Sharmatz in his feature directing debut. Hey, dear friend, before starting, don't forget to hit the subscribe and like button. Let's go. It's not as if all animated movies are pure kids stuff, but Orion and the Dark certainly seems at first blush to fit the bill. Inspired by the fanciful picture book of the same name and backed by DreamWorks Animation, the same studio that gave us Shrek, Kung Fu Panda, and other such kid pleasers. It tells the story of an anxiety-ridden elementary school student who must confront the worst of his many fears when he meets a personified version of the Dark. By the time it's all over, they will have gone on a globe-spanning adventure in which Dark tries to help young Orion face and conquer his myriad fears. Along the way, there are the expected gags. There is silliness. There are frenetic scenes of fantasy action. Most of all, there are lessons to be learned. Many a kiddie flick has enjoyed great success with much less. But as it turns out, there's more to director Sean Sharmatz's film than meets the eye. Yes, it is a kids' movie. At the same time, it's clear that Sharmatz and company were determined to craft a film that grown-ups would be able to not only endure, but also enjoy and maybe even grow from. On the lighter side, that includes references to the work of David Foster Wallace, a voiceover by Werner Herzog and other highbrow winks designed to fly directly over kids' heads while giving their parents an occasional smile. Between the grown-up chuckles, though, Orion and the Dark, based on a script by Oscar-winning screenwriter Charlie Kaufman, becomes what might be the deepest, most existentially minded major studio tune you're likely to see in some time. Artistically, one might take issue with its animation style, which isn't quite the equal of some of the bigger budget animated franchises from bigger name studios. Instead, Orion boasts more of a lower budget Diary of a Wimpy Kid aesthetic. Fortunately, that is coupled with a satisfying Pixar intellectualism. Just a kid like you. Within its opening few minutes, its lead kid character, Orion, voiced by Jacob Tremblay, does a good job of pretending otherwise, looking directly into the camera and proclaiming that he's just a kid like you. He then goes on to confess he's afraid of pretty much everything. That includes an assortment of typical grade school fears: bees, dogs, monsters, locker rooms, girls. But as he continues his list, heavier, more adult fears creep into the picture, like his fear of public humiliation, of abandonment, and of course of the dark. Except in this case, darkness doesn't represent merely the absence of light. Let's just say there's a reason the character of Dark, voiced by the suddenly everywhere Paul Walter Hauser, resembles a more huggable version of the Grim Reaper. This, in other words, is not your ordinary animated film. That's at least partly because Kaufman isn't your ordinary screenwriter. The scribe behind such thought-provoking films as Being John Malkovich, Adaptation, and Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, Kaufman isn't prone to vapidity. He doesn't often indulge in empty-calorie whimsy. Rather, he prefers high concepts that challenge his audience to ponder big ideas like existence and in the case of Orion and the Dark, it's opposite, nothingness. So while Orion and the Dark is on one hand a fun and briskly paced fantasy adventure, it also functions nicely as a smart, thoughtful, and often trippy exploration of existential dread. Admittedly, its ultimate message, don't let fear get in the way of living your life, isn't as profound as that in some of Kaufman's other works. Still, accessibility has its upside. After all, his Just for Adults 2015 stop-motion drama Anomalisa was beautiful enough to earn an Oscar nomination for Best Animated Feature, but not approachable enough to turn a profit at the box office. Orion and the Dark seems determined to avoid a repeat of that. It wants the masses to actually watch it. I have a feeling they have nothing to fear where that is concerned.